Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back for part 2 of the end of the year winter sale, Steam winter sale follow list cleanup. So, to catch up people in case you missed part 1, we're going through what is my secondary follow list, secondary to the wish list, so that we only have games on my Steam wish list that I actually want to play. What happens is, because I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and look at new games that come out on Steam, we'll often run into games that just don't have enough reviews on them. So I usually want to see 20 reviews before I put it on the wishlist, just so I know that the game isn't pulling some shenanigans and trickery through the screenshots and the descriptions and such. So yeah, last thing I'd want to do is spend $5, $10, $15, $60 on a game to only find out that it's incredibly buggy, only has 5 minutes of content, all the screenshots are really not indicative of what the game is. You know, false advertising has never really been brought up and challenged to my knowledge as far as video games, and it seems like you can get away with quite a lot. The good news is most bad games on Steam look like bad games on Steam, but they are getting better looking by every day. So yes, we've gotten up to games starting with J, Jade's Desert Descent. I'm pretty sure these were alphabetical in order, and what we're looking for is basically the same thing we were looking for when I did the Steam wishlist cleanup, which is, as of today, as of this air, finally finished and wrapped up on my channel. So all throughout December, long 5-hour episodes for every letter of the alphabet basically were covered, because there were so many games. It was between 2,000 and 3,000 games on the wish list that a major culling needed to happen. The follow list, not that long really. It should really only take a couple more hours, and then we will be as caught up as we could. I should have done this before the Steam Winter Sale happened, and the Steam Winter Sale is happening right now, which it's important to point that out because I'm asking people to support my channel by gifting me games off my wish list. So the wish list is good now. Everything on there is of at least a certain level of quality, so you're not going to gift me something that is just absolute garbage. And the winter sale is going on right now, so the games are real cheap. And if you don't want to make a decision, you can still support me by friending me on Steam and gifting gift cards, or just if there is a game in specific that you would like to gift to me, you can just gift it without checking to see if it's on the wish list. Odds are I may already own the game. I'm pretty sure Steam will stop you from gifting a game that I already own. But I'm not 100% sure on that, so you might want to direct message me on Twitter first. So that's, I think, all the setup we really need to do. If you want to support me on a more monthly basis, I have links down below to Patreon. That would be very helpful too. At some point in the future, if my YouTube channel is going to be viable, I'm going to have income to pay employees and pay for bills, not just games. I have more than enough of those. Speaking of having a lot of games, this is an interesting game, Jade's Descent, because it's a spin-off or a subsection of a different game. From a game called Shuyan Saga, they just turned a unlockable dungeon crawler minigame from that into its own thing, and it only has 6 reviews, but I think I've decided after thinking about it, like, the price is not terrible while it's on sale. Even in its base price, it's been only a couple of dollars. Sure, not a lot of people have played it, so this would be more of a hidden gem, but of the two English reviews, they're both positive that I'm seeing. This is a Chinese game. It's always nice to find a good quality Chinese game amongst quite often a lot of bad quality Chinese games. So let's add this to the wish list. The good news is, as long as I'm logged in, I can move things to the wish list and from off the follow list incredibly easy by just clicking this, whereas doing the wish list cleanup required me to write everything down and then go through quite a longer process to add things or remove things or move things on the wish list. So this should be a quicker experience, but it is going to certainly center around the idea of not spending too much time on any one game. We're just trying to get a general idea of, is this game good enough to be on the wish list? I still would have to go through the second level of quality check where I actually have to put my money where my mouth is during a sale. During the Steam Winter Sale, I spent about $250 on games, and a lot of them were not really cheap. I was going for more $5 games and slightly more AA titles and recognizable titles than going for something like Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass, which is an RPG Maker game. And I, for the most part, swear off playing RPG Maker games. But this one is rated 95% positive of 103 user reviews, which 103 is way over the 20 limit. Sometimes we'll have to look at games that are really old that don't have that many reviews, but they're just never going to get any more. The thing about RPG Maker games that usually makes them look so similar is they have a old school Final Fantasy III NES pixel art style, and they look like Japanese RPGs. This game does not even attempt to look like that while still using the same gameplay mechanics. And I believe it's like a horror game of some sort. So 54 all-time peak players have been playing at the same time. Adult themes from a perspective of an 8-year-old. What I want to look here is the number of hours on record. Wait, look at this. 68.4 hours on record. 43. 15.4. 36.3. 8.6 with a temporary review. 101. 20 hours. Actually, this is scaring me off of this game. I think this needs to leave the follow list and not make it to the wish list. Buy this game unless you're not into JRPGs. I'm not 100% sure I'm into JRPGs. And frankly, if I was going to play a Japanese RPG, I probably would want to make one that looked and was much more recognizable. It'd probably be a Final Fantasy game or a Dragon Quest game or something like that. I don't think it would be this game. If you're looking for a short 30-hour or less JRPG, yeah. This playtime has scared me away, and normally I don't even look at the playtime for games, because if a game is good, a game is good. And Metacritic is giving this an 82. But I don't think I can justify playing this. So it's not even discounted on sale right now, which that doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna have to just say this is the last shout out I'll give Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass as a game. Unfortunately for me, like several other styles of games, extremely long games don't work for me. Not as a YouTuber who's trying to create content. It's not something I would want to commit that amount of time to. If I had an infinite amount of time, I would put this on the wish list, but I don't. Also, let's not forget that Undertale exists, and this looks a little bit like Undertale too. So unfortunately that one is getting removed for just being too long. Apologies for the flashing white light. That's just the page reloading. Next we have Karma Incarnation 1, which is probably a episodic game. It says it's a point-and-click puzzle game. Let's see if we can get a description of whether there's going to be an Incarnation 2 or whether that is just that. Because this is rated very positively. I love point-and-click adventure games. I'm a sucker for them. This looks like a unique art style of sorts, and so that's all good. The question, though, is this episodic or is this a finished game? Average playtime, according to Steam Spy, is 4 hours and 3 minutes. That's a much more reasonable amount of time. Let's see. Karma Incarnation 1 is 1/3 of a cute psychedelic point-and-click adventure with light puzzles and some hidden objects. Let's see. I can't wait for the other 2/3 of the game. So this is another reason why games stay on the fall list, is because they're very possibly are unfinished now. This came out October 19th, 2016, if this release date is to be believed. I don't know if you really should always believe the release dates. You shouldn't really, but it's the best number I have. If we go look at this developer on Steam, they have no other game under their name, and it's been over 2 years, slightly. They should have announced something. They should have had something. When we look at this publisher, the publisher should have published something else. This is almost certainly just a self-published game under a different publisher's name, which is what they used to do before Steam allowed for Steam Direct and self-publishing. Unfortunately, regardless of how much people like this game or how well it's rated, it to me has crossed into the term of abandonware. And this is the problem of episodic games in general, is that you just didn't really have a finished product and you're still going to put it on Steam, and then Steam does not enforce anything like early access, which if they did have rules that said this game has to be labeled as early access until you finish and deliver what you promised, that might be nice, but they don't do that. So people for the rest of time basically will buy this game and somewhat enjoy it and get hyped for the sequels that will just never come. And I just don't feel like I want my YouTube channel to be about reviewing or endorsing unfinished products, or endorsing the idea of episodic releases or pre-ordering or DLC, all of which center around selling something before it's finished and before you can actually deliver. So that's getting removed. Next we have a game called Kursk, which is 62% reviewed positive. It says it's a first ever adventure documentary game inspired by real life events. I don't think that matters really too much to me. And let's see. It doesn't, like, you really wouldn't call this an asset flip game so much, because this looks like there actually is a decent amount of animation and a similar animation style going on here. I mean, it doesn't look like a AAA game, but it looks really good. Unfortunately, the reviews are mixed, so let's see the reviews, and then I think we're going to remove this. We don't need to cover mixed games nobody's ever heard of. Let's see. Says Takes a real-life subject matter and seems to look good in the graphics department. Turns out to be a massive letdown upon arrival, especially considering its steep asking price. Unfortunately, such is the case for Kursk. For a good 2/3 of the game, you're stuck doing quests from A to B and watching dozens of door hatch opening sequences, which can take up to 20 seconds each time. So yeah, it doesn't seem like there's much here. And you know, a game that seems to spend most of its time on a submarine, that would probably be a kind of boring game in general. There's not a lot you can do on a submarine visually, as far as walking around and aiming and shooting guns or jumping or platforming. So yeah, walking down narrow hallways has never really been a interesting thing in any environment in a video game. So yeah, Kursk is getting removed. Let's move forward. Next we have a game called Lake of Voices, which is a visual novel, and I'm not sure how many visual novels I'd really end up buying or covering. This is definitely a Western style visual novel without the anime aesthetic. It also claims it has full English voice acting, which makes it super appealing to me, because the last thing I'd want to do is play a visual novel where I have to read it all out loud. That would be a total pain. This is also a free game with no in-app purchases. Well, there's no reason not to put that on the wish list then. That's an easy decision. Maybe I had it on the follow list because it was free, but I don't see a reason for that. Moving forward to the next game, we have Leisure Suit Larry, Wet Dreams Don't Die. For the people who actually purchased it and verified it, this one's tagged sexual content, nudity, point click, in case you're not familiar with the Leisure Suit Larry series. Overall, 88% positive of 144 user reviews. This should go to the wishlist. I believe I own all the other Leisure Suit Larry games except for the one that came out just before this that was kickstarted, and they gave out keys to the people who kickstarted it, and then nobody liked it, and then they took it off for sale. So yeah, that one is going to be a bit of a lost gem. There are a handful of games on Steam that you really can only get in a few different ways. The latest one that's caught my attention is the Walking Dead final season, the Telltale series, because Telltale has gone bankrupt and another company has stepped in to finish that project. They have decided to sell it only on the Epic Store and make it an exclusive, which means now somebody who owns every single other Telltale game, with maybe several exceptions on CSI games that they were licensed to make in their early day, I cannot finish the series on my chosen platform, unless somebody had a Steam key for the final season of The Walking Dead and gave it to me, and I imagine if I had a Steam key that hadn't been activated yet, that would still work. There seems like there are several games like that where you could get around things like that, but it's highly unlikely you could ever get your hands on those keys. Alice Madness Returns is another great example of that. And when you get to pages on Steam of games like that, it just, the buy button is missing. I'm rambling. No, Let It Die is from Grasshopper Manufacture. Grasshopper, and it's a free-to-play game with in-app purchases. I don't think I'd ever play it. even though it is made by one of those weird Japanese developers that I love to follow their games. And I thought it was a little bit better received than mixed, honestly. Perhaps it was not as well received because this version came out a long time after the PlayStation 4 version came out, both of which were free to play, and so maybe the enthusiasm died down from that. Let's see. I don't know what this is. Disclosure to third parties. So apparently this person doesn't recommend the game because of the end-user license agreement. This isn't a bad game per se, but the problem is that there are better Souls-like games out there, so I can't really recommend it. If you want to climb the Tower of Barbs, definitely have a controller because the keyboard and mouse support sucks. Here's another person talking about how they're disclosing your information to third parties and they're unhappy about that. So it might just have been the end user license agreement, which I don't even see a mention of this. Usually my Steam plugins would put a warning sign that says third party EULA somewhere around here, but it's not even getting listed. Yeah, Let It Die is a weird Dark Souls-esque dungeon crawler game, and it can easily be forgotten. Like, honestly, this is the kind of game that, had they made a more story-centric single-player experience on it, and then had it half focused on a multiplayer free-to-play idea and half focused on a single-player story, I could come back to a game like this several years down the line and say, well, let's play the single-player story. That was good enough. We don't have to worry about the multiplayer part of the game, which is generally what I try to focus on. Is I don't care about the multiplayer experiences because that's different for everybody who's playing. So I'm trying to evaluate games from the retrospective perspective of, hey, if you're buying this game that came out in 2010 now in 2018 or 2019, is there a real reason to still play this? Can you still get entertainment out of it? Moving on, try to speed up a little bit here. We have Lethal League Blaze, which is an improvement sequel to Lethal League. It's overwhelmingly positive. I don't see a reason why I can't just put this on the wish list right now. This does have some single player, but it is pretty focused on the multiplayer, and so it is a game that would be in the category of fighting games, and I'm not sure how many and if any fighting games I'd actually play, but I could see myself playing this one in particular, and it being so incredibly different from something like Street Fighter that it stands on its own. Moving on, we have a game called Loria, homage to classic golden era strategy games with a modern spin of controls and user experience, it says. It's a real-time strategy game. It doesn't look particularly amazing, and it feels like if I was going to play a game like this, I'd play Warcraft or Starcraft, something that's a lot more recognizable. And I know Red Alert is going to try to get re-released on PC, so of all the real-time strategies, all those games are extremely long in the playing too. I don't see where this has room. It looks like people liked it, but I don't think it has that relevancy. $18.99. Only 2 playable races, only 16 missions. That's really small. An all-time peak of 30 people, so it's not going to become a multiplayer esports game, even if it could be. It's only single player, actually. Let's see. Here's an interesting thing. Loria does not include multiplayer at this point. However, if the responses to the game will be positive and the game will gain stable enough user base, 3,000 sales or more, we'll definitely work towards adding multiplayer in the game. So there's an ultimatum there. And that's not the way to present that. You should be more flowery about it and not set hard numbers. Anytime somebody sets a hard number, that means they've set the number extremely high, and even if you did make that goal, they still wouldn't honor it. Moving on. Next we have Lost Cities. This game is 36% positive. It's a card game. Since I stream Hearthstone every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it makes a little bit of sense to keep an eye out for card games, even if they aren't collectible card games. Actually, I don't think this is a collectible card game. This might be more of a deck builder game. Whatever it is, it's mostly negative, and it doesn't look very visually appealing. Probably added this when it had no reviews, and now that I see it has 11 mostly negative reviews, this is one of those games that is just kind of dead in the water. Yeah, it is possible that the developer patches this game and makes it way better, but it's so unlikely that I can't keep things on the fall list in the hopes or the possibility that a game could get better. Any game could get better, and it would be up to advertisers or news reporters on video games to say, hey, this game is majorly improved, check it out again. And we don't see a lot of that for several reasons, but the most reason is that most developers don't fix their games. They abandon them after the 6-month initial launch window and move on to the next thing. Next we have Lost in Vivo, a horror game about claustrophobia. During a storm, your surface jaw is forced down a broken sewer drain. You find the nearest sewer entrance and run in after it. After the way, you meet others that are also stricken by abnormal or psychological fear. Interesting concept. 93% positive of 176 user reviews. Now, I'm not going to say all of these graphics look great, but it seems kind of doable. This feels like a 1995 style 3D game that would hopefully run with a modern style processor. So, like, while the graphics may be a little dated looking, it seems like the movement's smooth, is what I meant by that. I think this can get added to the wish list. The question, the question would certainly come down to when would I get around to actually playing a game like this. That's an interesting thought. Yeah, I'd probably try and play it during Halloween, October month. But there's so many other Halloween games, I probably wouldn't get around to it for many years. This is why I generally have a kind of bias against horror games, because there's so many of them I already have. Moving on, we have Lost Lands, Mistakes of the Past. This is a hidden object game. Don't be confused by the nice animation here. They will spend money. Most hidden object game makers will spend money to have these cutscenes and animations, but the vast majority of the game is very lightly animated, if not animated at all. You're just looking at stationary scenes. It really, talking of false advertising, this is kind of, hidden object games are probably the worst offenders in that case. And you know, hidden object games has gotten boring. I tried to cover some of them. That being said, I don't see any reason why I should leave this one out of the list. This is the beginning of a new series, and I'm just going to leave it on the follow list until it has more reviews. Actually, this one should have not been up for consideration, since it only came out a couple days ago and it doesn't have 20 reviews. So let's move on. Next we have a game called Marble It Up. Now, the problem on Steam with Marble games is there's a lot of them, and a lot of them straight up suck. They don't really have any textures, they don't have any kind of idea of an actual gameplay. I'm not sure if Super Monkey Ball or Marble Madness were ever that good of games in the first place, that there should be a whole genre of games like it. This doesn't look bad though, and this is 96% positive, so I can't and shouldn't just say I hate all Marble games because the few ones I've covered so far have been bad. But I certainly will turn a very critical eye to any game that involves and centers around marbles or spheres bouncing around. But yeah, this one has earned the right to be on the wish list. It looks good visually. It looks like it plays very fast. It's rated very positively. Looks like it has a lot of different marble textures, which is something I think you would assume to do in a marble game. So let's move on to the next one. Speaking of games that don't deserve to be on the wish list, though, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. From what I recall, not a great game, and it's a extremely expensive game full of all kinds of DLC. Let's see. If you want all the characters, you're paying $15, plus $20 for the standard edition, as it's half off right now. I guess if you get the deluxe edition, you're paying $30, which that's half off. It would have been $60 normally. But I don't know if the character pass really gives you all the characters, and I don't know if it includes any of these extra costumes, so you may still end up paying quite a lot. Like, this clearly should be a game that was very, very popular, but it isn't. I didn't have a lot of fun playing this game. I found the story to be uninteresting and lackluster. I got really bored and just left. Let's see, the story mode is way too forced and quite obnoxious, honestly. They tell you in the tutorial and training and such, use combos. Other than the story mode, there's not much to do or even worth doing. Matchmaking didn't work so well for me, as it took quite some time to find anyone to play against, and once it did, it took quite a bit of time to load. The gameplay is okay, but the menu has so much lag even with my decent computer. Combos are interesting with the new mechanics of stones. The play is fun-ish. So, not even major hostility on a lot of these reviews. It's just not impressive. And that's a shame, because the original Marvel vs. Capcom from the old days was super popular in arcades. Like, the idea of having Capcom fighting characters, which are basically Street Fighter characters and other Capcom characters from other games, Chris Redfield from Resident Evil 5, fighting Marvel characters was quite impressive. Now, this is probably not a esports pro focused fighting game in the first place. It is obviously designed and targeted to younger kids, but it's not working. Unfortunately, Capcom, Bandai, Square Enix, a lot of these Japanese AAA developers, or you would call them AAA developers because there's not really that many people bigger in Japan, often they just kind of don't do good quality games anymore. They're being run by the wrong people, it seems like. So yeah, just remove this from the following list. There's so many other fighting games already in consideration, and I haven't even gotten anywhere close to deciding if I'm going to play any fighting game. Almost certainly though, unless something better comes out, I would want to start down the path of playing fighter games by playing Dragon Ball FighterZ. That way, because that's probably the easiest entry, kid-friendly fighting game out there that's popular and good. Moving on, we have Meow Motors, which, because there's never going to be Nintendo games on Steam, we're always trying to keep an eye out for clones of Nintendo games. This is obviously a Mario Kart clone style game. 93% of 47 users is all I really needed to know. This one can be added to the wish list. In fact, I've gotten kind of lucky, and there's about 2 or 3 racing games that are Mario Kart clones on Steam, and maybe a couple more on the wish list that I can go through. Again, since I only play single player experiences, I probably won't spend an incredibly large amount of time with these kind of games, but that's really not a concern right now. All I need to know is the game good enough for me to want to have it on the wish list and thus be willing to cover it if I buy the game or if it's gifted to me. So moving forward, and I'm noticing we're jumping through the letters kind of fast, which is nice. We have Midnight Quest, an adventure point and click game with a unique, would you call this a webcomic animation style? I'm still trying to get a grasp of how you classify so many of these animation styles, because everybody who does something unique is so extremely unique I can't even tell the influences or put a good name on it. And everybody who doesn't do something unique is usually doing the anime art style in some level of quality. So yeah, all I needed to know on this is it's just barely over the 20 reviews, but it's 90% positive. It's a point and click game. I'm a sucker for point and click games, so this can go to the wish list. And some of these games that are newer certainly won't get down to the price point that I think they should be at. 25% off to make it a $3 game. That's not overpriced, it's just not really discounted to my level. I would prefer, not knowing how long this game is, I would prefer it to be closer to $1.50, $1. 5 hours and 48 minutes on average playtime is a decent amount of time. So $3 is alright, but not a great discount. But I'm also not really considering purchasing it right now. I'm just putting it on the wish list. Moving forward, we have Montaro Re, which is, I believe, the continuation of the Montaro game, which is a platforming game where you play as a, is it called a Shinu Itsu dog? I'm probably mispronouncing that or saying the wrong word completely. Just kind of common Japanese breed of dogs that's really cute looking, and he's just collecting coins, it seems. I think there might be an overarching goal here. Rated very positive at 95%. I think just because my love of cute dogs, and look at these achievements, although that's a cat. Let's see. This seems like this is a this looks like it's a decent game, although this description has thrown me for a loop. Lift up high school girls' shirts, protect your dog by panties. Collect dog coins, Doge coins to unlock more Doge costumes. Now, there actually was a Bitcoin competitor called Dogecoins that I think was a joke, and somehow somebody made it not a joke. So people might be landing on this page because of that. But regardless of those things, positive, I'll play it. Theoretically, I'll not perv out too much if I play this lifting high school girls' skirts, which is according to anime at least, a popular prank that immature boys do in Japan. Moving on. I wouldn't be surprised if this next one is Montoro also. Actually, I probably should go back here and see if we can find the other Montaro game. Let's see, Montaro, the original game, instead of that, I already own. Okay, so I'm already halfway there. Alright, that's good to know. Moving forward. Next we have Marken Forest, Mylin and the Forest Girl. This is another JRPG anime game. It has 81 reviews now, 91% positive. This game, I guess what I'm looking for here is the playtime and the relevancy here. 10 hours and 21 minutes for a JRPG seems a lot more reasonable, but it still runs into a relevancy issue. Here's the negative review. A charming, sometimes fun, but ultimately confusing, frustrating, and broken adventure RPG. But that is drowned out by the remaining reviews saying it's positive. So I can't really take that one negative review as gold. Let's see. So this might in parts be a style of clone of a dungeon crawler. It might be in part a style of clone of a Legend of Zelda style of game. It's going for kind of a chibi anthropomorphized animal style. It also looks like it might be a mobile port with the level of low polygon 3D graphics we're seeing here. Let's jump to the screenshots and see if we can get any of those to load, because I don't want to watch all of the videos, but sometimes you have to click on the videos to get anything to refresh. Something about the Steam web pages, they're like preloading images or videos in the background. And it's cute. It might be kid friendly, it might not. Could be a Chinese game, could be a Japanese game, could be a Korean game. Without a full audio support of one of those, I can't really make a guess. Although I would guess maybe Korean. But that's just almost wild. I'm trying to see what the age limit on this might be, or the focus age here is. If you restart the game after watching the end, the door to gameplay packed Act 2 will open. Interesting. So that might be another 10 hours. Yeah, I think this deserves to be on the wish list. It is in the same category as all the other JRPGs and RPGs. Like, I don't know why I would really pick this over, say, Final Fantasy or Dragon's Quest, but if down the line I've played all the Final Fantasies I want to play and all the Dragon's Quest I want to play, I would be willing to play this. Unfortunately, I don't think 10 hours is short enough to sell me on buying this game and playing it first. But I could see down the line playing it. So we'll leave that and move on. Next we have Nana in the Dark, which is this horror girl left alone on her own style of game that I kind of want to put on the follow list, even though it's only 68% of 22 user reviews. The problem here with this one is I've got to make a decision. This came out November 11, 2017. It's probably not going to get any better. I don't have to play all good games. That would be ridiculous. As a video game critic, it wouldn't expand or broaden my ability to criticize bad games whatsoever if I just avoided them. But generally speaking, something has to be relevant. There has to be a reason to play a bad game. And this one, I think, kind of does give you a different reason, because you don't have a lot of horror games on Steam that involve playing as a child and being left alone and being afraid of that. You usually have instead something where you're playing as an adult male who is in this horrible situation, who's either going to get a ton of jump scares or is going to be attacked by a hideous monster. So for its weirdness, for its differentness, like, this probably isn't a good game. It's not one I think I can just immediately recommend people checking out, but I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to add it to the wish list as just a weird experience. Let's see, and it doesn't seem like it's too long of an experience, maybe 5 hours at most. Moving on. Newton in the Apple Tree is rated positively. It's tagged with sexual content and nudity. It's a visual novel. So I'm not sure how I'd ever cover these kinds of games, but I'm not shying away from putting them on the wish list. That's really all that kind of needs to be said about it. If I could find some way to censor what often in these cases are just a dozen scenes or so that barely last 20 minutes in total, you can still have a decent game like this. Actually, you can see here, in this case, they've even done you the favor to give a 17 plus patch for free and an 18 plus patch. And so that probably means that if you buy this game and play it originally, you don't see any sexual, well, there probably is some hints of sexual dialogue, but probably no sexual imagery and no nudity. And then if you buy the 17 patch, I imagine you're getting what is the Japanese patch, where things have to be blurred and censored or obscured in some way for it to be sold in Japan. And then the 18 plus patch is most of the rest of the world, where things can be fully uncensored. Ideally, I kind of would like it to be the other way around, but I can see the logic in both ways. I kind of wish it was completely uncensored by default, and this is just the game, this is the real world, and people are going to have to live with it. And then if you want to patch and censor things out, there should be a below 18 patch, and possibly a below 17 patch. Although I'm not sure you even really need that 2 patches. There should just be, it should be uncensored. It should be, in my opinion, uncensored by default and then censored via patch. Anyways, that's more of a philosophical thought than anything else. So let's move on. We're making progress. Good progress, actually. Next we have Night Cry. This game is at least inspired by a somewhat famous horror game where Scissor Man chases people with these giant pair of scissors shears. That was like a 2D animated game. This is a 3D animated game. I don't think it actually is from the same developer at all. And calling yourself Nude Maker as the developers is probably a terrible name. It's only 59% positive, but I still kind of want to cover this. So, like, I'm willing to have another bad horror game. I would guess maybe horror is the entry point to make a mediocre game. Now, this game right now is $10, but at its main price of $25, it really wouldn't have been worth it. And apparently, there's a lot of DLC on it, too. So, yeah. Sometimes I just make some weird exceptions, and this is just another example of weird exceptions. Even the Western, like, AAA developers sometimes make some pretty bad horror games. Next we have Ninja Clash of the Carrots. This is a Modus game. I was thinking of covering Modus games, but if I recall correctly, there actually aren't that many. There's this Override Mech City Brawl. There's this game Extinction, which I decided to not have on the wish list because of it just not being good quality. So this publisher, this developer has not built enough of a name in my mind to make me trust it. And I saw some people reviewing this game and they kind of liked it, but honestly, I don't think it really looks like something I would enjoy too much. It seems like a little too much is happening on screen, a little too random events. It's 100% positive of 21 user reviews. So, do I bow to the crowd or do I bow to my own opinion? Well, I would be foolish, I guess, to bow to my own opinion. Like, I've got 21 people all agreeing on Steam telling me this is a good game. So, I'm going to listen to the crowd and put it on the wish list. Moving forward. Probably the reason why that was on the follow list in the first place is because I was iffy about it and I didn't want to make a decision. Next we have Nippon Marathon, Nippon being the Japanese word for Japan. This looks like a more exaggerated version of some of the joke game shows that air on Japanese TV. Often it is well-known comedic actors that are the quote-unquote contestants of the game shows, and so Japanese people see its comedian actors in these crazy events, and they know it's not real. It's all been staged. That often doesn't get translated when you see the same videos on YouTube, because you think, oh, they're just taking random Japanese citizens and putting them on in crazy scenarios, which for the most part that wouldn't happen. They're far too timid to ever willingly agree to be on most of these type of TV shows, unlike, say, Westerners, who you could find hundreds upon hundreds of people willing to be on TV doing the dumbest thing for free. This looks crazy. It's clearly the first thing to say here, but it's 92% positive, and it looks like it might be playable in single player, although it's probably more focused on multiplayer. So I'm not really sure how much time I'd really spend on this, but if I can do a little bit, if really it's just there's a practice mode where you can play by yourself, I think this can make it to the wish list. The crowd has spoken. It isn't just a crazy game that's actually bad. I assume it's a crazy game that's actually playable. Says 4-player drop-in. Solo player is supported, but grab up to 4 pads and enjoy the supreme silliness of the game's greatest marathons. Now, OpenCritic, for instance, here, and this is one of those examples of where video game critics are not in line with people who actually play video games and pay for video games a lot of times. So they've given it a 47, whereas people who verified actually purchased the game on Steam have given it a 92%. And I guarantee you there's far less than 89 reviews on OpenCritic for this game. Very possibly there's only 2 or 3. In part because anything that looks Japanese by most video game review sites either gets reviewed poorly or doesn't get reviewed at all. Often it doesn't get reviewed at all. Which is insane, since Japanese game development is probably half of the entire industry. But yeah, there's definitely a bias there. Next we have a game called Noback, first-person multiplayer arena shooter. This is online multiplayer only, so I would never play this game. I don't know why I put this on the follow list in the first place. I guess maybe I thought that there was some single-player experience here. And you can see it's only 68% positive anyways. And it's a free-to-play game. Oh, you know why this is on the wish list though? This is another student project. But if it's a student project and there's only 4 people playing at the same time, then I don't think I could cover it anyways. So I was trying to cover all the games from Brigham Young, and we're starting to see more of this happen where schools are just publishing through Steam Direct the games developed by their students, and as long as it's for free, that's fine. But then it kind of sucks if the college is making money off the students' work. That's unethical. Beatboxers is another game that was on, I left on the follow list and the wish list for that same reason. And I do believe that means I've just shot myself in the foot and I need to control tab really far to get back to where I was, because my plugin that stops me from opening the same tab twice just shot me back to the beginning of the let's see, well, this will speed that up quite a bit. So this is a different plugin that suspends the tabs, and it saves on RAM, called the Great Suspender for Chrome, but I think you can get it for other things too. Alright, so Novak is out, Beatboxers is in, and Vanguards may be up for consideration too, so I'm not going to click on that. But yeah, I can't cover a game that's multiplayer. Moving on, we have Odium to the Core. This is 95% positive. It met the 20 user review game. This is a side-scrolling shoot 'em up shooter game. That's really not the style of games I'm used to covering or playing, but I should be willing to expand my reach. This is a game I should try. $2.99 is not asking too much for a game that I might only play for 15 minutes and give up because I'm just too frustrated with it. Generally speaking, I do try to avoid shooting games, whether they're shoot 'em ups or side-scrolling shooters, but I'll make an exception for this one, put it on the wish list. I still have to, when there's a sale and when I'm thinking about buying things, I still would have to justify buying this game over roughly 2,000 other games on the wish list, and that probably puts this at the absolute bottom of the wish list in the first anyways. So there's still a lot of reasons why I wouldn't consider that. Nothing's loading here for Overkill's The Walking Dead. 45% in the last 30 days, 52% in overall. I kinda had hoped that this somehow would have been a sleeper hit of a game, but yeah, I don't really see a reason why you would ever spend the money to license The Walking Dead to make a zombie game. I would almost certainly have a zombie game already finished and sold, like Dying Light. So if the creators of Dying Light went to Starbreeze Publishing, which is the company that owns the Walking Dead license, and said, hey, let's make some DLC around the Walking Dead scenario for our already established very popular game, that would be one thing. But to start with the license and then go and try and make a game already puts your budget lower than it should be. And it feels like that inevitably turned out a bad product, so this gets removed. I suspect we won't have any good Walking Dead game ever again. I'm not sure that you can even say the Telltale Walking Dead series is going to be good, because we kind of still need to see the end of the story. It might be good in the future. It's fun to play with friends only, but it has a long way to go. The matchmaking is very limited. Not yet. Could be good in a few months. Well, it's been a few months since this came out. Well, maybe 2 months. Yeah, and this one was dead on arrival. I remember when this game came out on Reddit, there was a post that said, this game just came out to no advertisement whatsoever. Is this game dead on arrival? Overkill's The Walking Dead. And the general idea was, yeah, it was. Dead on arrival. And Steam has decided to not load in any of these pages very fast today. Next we have Parkitect, which would be like a modernized version of Roller Coaster Tycoon. It is overwhelmingly positive in the last 30 days and 90% positive over its lifetime, which honestly that's almost exactly the same time frame, since it says it came out November 29th, although maybe it was in early access for a long time before this. There's a lot of Roller Coaster Tycoon games on Steam, and I probably do want to just play the newest and best one, and Parkitect very well might be that case, because a lot of the other Roller Coaster Tycoon games that are under that actual name are not reviewed super well. And Project Hospital is a simulation game, but it's running a hospital, so I don't think that is really comparable at all. City Skylines, same thing, you're running a city. One thing I guess to keep an eye on is when you're playing a game like this, City Skylines had an incredibly small menu where I could just not see anything. And frankly, it was probably too complicated of a simulation for me to start off with. So I'd like to see what the menus look like and what the camera zoom level is. In this game it seems like it's zoomed in pretty close so that you can control things and see what things are important and what things aren't, and if any menus pop up and you need to click any buttons, you know what buttons you're clicking on. Yeah, the user interface was too small. Moving on in City Skylines, we have Path to Mnemosyne sign. I don't know if this is a real word. I've never heard of it. This is a beautiful hand-drawn game. I'm not sure that it's finished though, so let's see if we can look at the description. It now has 20 positive reviews, and that was the one thing that I was waiting on. I was probably being a little bit pig-headed about it. It is also, since it's relatively new, kind of incredibly expensive for as long as I suspect this game is. Let's look at the descriptions. Not a lot of people have played it, certainly, so it is kind of a hidden gem. 0.1, 4.6 hours. This guy was nauseated after 5 minutes, so the spinning might affect people visually. 0.2 hours, 1.6, 2 hours, 2.9 hours, 0.2 hours, 2.6 hours. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's incredibly long. That's not a problem, but it does become a factor, certainly, when you're asking for nearly $7. But that's a factor I'll consider when I actually consider buying the game, not a factor to consider whether it belongs on the wish list or not. Let's see. Then it's in this bundle with a couple other games that might be interesting for me to check out. Let's see, if I click here, you have a game called King Lucas, which is mixed, and you have a game called Columno, which looks like it's a single screen Unity puzzle game that might be interesting. I guess maybe I could click this and relatively be certain that it won't send me back, but I'm not 100% certain, so I'm gonna leave column no for adding to the follow list. Well, I clicked it. So I'm gonna add this to the follow list just to see if maybe it's worth playing. But it would need to get some more reviews before I'd consider it. Moving on. Next we have Pathfinder Kingmaker. It's not positively reviewed high enough. It's a Chinese RPG. I kind of wonder why this is on my wish list at all. I think maybe what I was doing was I was looking for a bunch of games that might have been under the Pathfinder name, but then I removed all those games because none of them were reviewed well. Like it could have been, I was looking at Tyranny games, it could have been, I was looking at Baldur's Gate games, thinking about, there's a lot of these older RPG games or games inspired by older RPG strategy games, and This is November 2018. I'm certain the game will improve as it is developed. So it feels like this is an early access game that's not being sold as an early access game. But this came out in September. The reviews are now. Nobody's really having a great time with it. If Pathfinder Kingmaker turns out to be a good game, somebody would have to tell me. For now, it leaves the follow list. Let's see, next we have Phantom Halls, which is an RPG horror action adventure. Seems oddly animated, but I'm willing to give this a try. This is another one of those examples of a game that I imagine just did not have any reviews, so I wasn't certain whether, particularly with this animation style, I'm still not certain that this isn't a combination of several assets that might make it an asset flip, but honestly it looks like it has enough polish where I wouldn't use that term. This also suffers from what I call dark screenshot syndrome, where the significant portions of all the screenshots are dark, hiding the fact that there's not that many textures or not that much content. But yeah, this got enough reviews, so I'll put it on the wish list. I certainly wouldn't want to pay $14.99 for it. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a ton of people have played it yet either. Again, 5 hours of gameplay. The rest of the people seems to barely have a couple hours of gameplay. There's a lot of early access reviews, but this is not labeled as early access. Maybe it is still early access. That might be the new shenanigans that game developers do. They might release the game in early access and then a week later remove it from early access without anybody noticing. But usually I think that could backfire majorly. There's been quite a few games that have said, hey, we're coming out 1.0 and we're coming out of early access, and then people are upset because that early access really has not improved at all. Basically, as a developer, you have to, if you're coming out of early access, you have to have months and months of content that you haven't shown the general public to release, so it feels like a major change has happened. But then again, I guess all the companies that have gotten in trouble for leaving early access and not really changing their games also made a big to-do about leaving early access. If you just did it really quietly, maybe nobody would notice, depending on how many people are actually excited about your game. Let's see. So we have this game, Photonic Distress, which says it's a puzzle or platformer. It's 95% positive of 24 reviews. I'm not expecting too much from this game, but it looks good. Looks pretty, and it looks like it might be kind of a Portal-inspired clone with maybe a little bit more shooting in it and some other different kinds of darkness mechanics and vision mechanics, on top of some electricity stuff. That looks good enough to make it to the wish list, so let's move on. Now remember, I pre-filtered all the games out of the follow list. There's considerably more games on the follow list than what you're seeing. I just left anything that was below 20 reviews and still came out in 2018, because I want to give those games some more time, see if people really can find them, try them, give them some reviews, help guide my direction a little bit more. This next game is Pizza Titan Ultra, which is a half racing from point A to point B game and a half pizza delivery game and mech fighting game, which I guess that would give it 3 halves. It looks crazy, and I love crazy games. It's rated positive. Those are the 2 things that I needed to see before I add it to the wish list. Again, $11.99. Probably not the right price point for a game like this, but I imagine it will eventually go on sale. Although there are some games that just never make it. They literally never go on discount, and thus I personally never am going to play them. Next we have Prey Typhoon Hunter. This is DLC. It's still waiting for multiplayer in the VR mode. This I don't have to have on the follow list because I will, if I ever get around to playing Prey, which I do want to play, I will want to get to DLC Prey Moon Crash. Typhoon Hunter is a multiplayer only, kind of terrible, and that's why you see it's only 38% positive game. The idea is the typhoons can mimic and look like objects, so it's basically hide and seek. There is a Minecraft modded version of hide and seek that plays very similar to this, and so they just kind of stole that idea and put it in their own game. But the truth is, all of the Prey series is around fighting monsters that can mimic, which in the main game people weren't upset about that. But I don't have to, again, don't have to worry about this. Moon Crash is on the wish list. When I buy Moon Crash, if I ever get around to buying Moon Crash, I'll get this for free and probably never play it. Moon Crash is a more singular player storyline based expansion that is, I think, received a lot better than the Typhoon Hunter. The only reason Typhoon Hunter, I assume, even exists is because it is part of a season pass, and this is a growing problem with season passes. I think when season passes were first introduced, game developers really tried hard to be good stewards and only release good quality content that made people want to actually continue to play their game. They were using season passes when they were first introduced to try to fight people who were trading in games to, like, GameStop, and then because they were trying to stop the used game market. Now they've either decided that they've succeeded well enough to destroy the used game market, which for PC in particular, there's never been a used game market. Or they've decided that they can't do any more damage through season passes doing that, so they've shifted their goal now to using pre-orders and season passes as a way to make it seem like they're giving you content, but a lot of times they're just giving you what would have been left on the cutting room floor, or content that quite frankly might have been held for the sequel. And we may start to see a pattern of sequels to games being shorter or lacking in content or lacking in quality because they're giving away too much here. I just finished covering the Borderlands 2 series, which is still airing and will eventually wrap up on my channel. And one thing that seemed fairly obvious is all of the DLC in Borderlands 2 could have been released like 2 years later after Borderlands 2's main game came out, and that could have just been Borderlands 3. Instead, you get a lot of unassociated, disparate DLC sections that they're all good and for the most part and worth playing, but they just make Borderlands 2, which the base game is already long enough, they just make it longer. And then that gets even more confused when you think about, well, then they released a couple years after they released Borderlands 2, they released Borderlands the pre-sequel, and they still have yet to release Borderlands 3. So a lot of work and a lot of content has been created that could have been saved for a better ending to the trilogy. And often game developers drop the ball when creating a trilogy, and the third game usually sucks, so it could probably use the help. Moving on from that rant, though, we're trying to get through this quickly. We have Project Eagle, a 3D interactive Mars base. Is this one that requires VR? No, it doesn't even support VR. Says it's a free-to-play simulation game. I don't know how much of a game it really is. I guess since it's a free game and it's rated mostly positive, we can put it on the wish list. It doesn't require VR or anything. I almost certainly would never get around to playing this. Does it have any microtransactions in it? Not according to this. So let's just move forward. Yeah, that goes to the wish list. Next we have Project Hospital, which I've been a little hesitant to have this on the wish list, but people like it and I could see myself playing it if I'm going to get into playing a series of management games. Even though I have no real nostalgia for 2 Point Hospital, which is what this is based off of, unless I'm getting confused and actually Project Hospital is not 2 Point Hospital. Wait a minute. Let me think about that for a second. Is Project Hospital a cheap clone of 2 Point Hospital? If it was, I'd almost certainly see it 2 Point Hospital recommended here. Project Hospital is a far more serious twist than Theme Hospital or its spiritual successor 2 Point Hospital. Yeah. Okay. I like the idea of being more serious too, though. So this is design a real hospital and treat real diseases versus 2 Point Hospital, which is build a hospital and treat fictitious diseases. So that would be a very interesting comparison to try both games and see which one is actually more entertaining as a game. Yeah, I knew something felt off about that, but that is a great example. I almost just added this straight to the wish list and go, okay, this is 2 Point Hospital. And then I was thinking to myself, well, maybe the developer is called 2 Point Hospital. but no. And this developer hasn't made anything else, which doesn't really mean anything when you've already got positive reviews of the one game that they did make. Okay, cool. Let's move forward. I assume 2 Point Hospital is on my wish list. If it isn't, it should be. Next we have Project Warlock, which is a modern version of Doom. I guess this deserves to be on the wish list. The thing I could say about this is, looking at the graphics, even though it looks like it's inspired by Doom and it's using a unique art style to depict things, it looks like the gameplay is actually smooth and well done, and it looks like this probably plays a lot better than trying to go back and play the original Doom. Also, his targeting reticle on his gun and lifted upward, and so that's certainly something you couldn't do in Doom. You were always firing directly in front of you, not looking upwards or downwards. I'm not a super fan of these styles of games though, so I'd probably, if I did get this, I'm gonna put it on the wish list. If I did get this though, I'm not sure I would get very far on it, so hopefully it's more of a game where it's only a few hours, 3 or 4 hours of gameplay, and not something that is super long. It seems like it might be 10 hours of gameplay. Yeah, but yep, this one's gonna make it to the wish list. I keep taking too long on all of this. Next we have Protocol. Protocol's an interesting game because you have to literally follow a very strict rules to avoid a AI from blowing up the world and causing you to reset everything. Meanwhile, you're also investigating like an alien infection of a spaceship or something like that. Like, I don't remember. It's been a while since I saw this game. English-Russian game, PC and VR. What I'm looking for is to see if it is single player or multiplayer. It seems like it's single player only. Let's see. You are a flippant soldier who signs up for the Protocol program implementation packed in a landing box and dropped on some Arctic circle, not from the Terminus Research Complex. Your main objective is to follow the mysterious AI's orders, who uses you to make first contact with the Protocol program framework. Any deviation from the AI's order is considered a violation of protocol, leading to the elimination of the complex and staff. So this could be like a super annoying game too. Like it really probably is a game about being extremely pedantic, and Simon Says like just following instructions directly. This could be also an asset flip game. It could be a game that breaks, and so in order to stop the game from breaking, they've got you on an extremely tight leash to do just what they game tested. But yeah, people seem to like it, and that's all that really I needed to check, is to make sure that this wasn't a game that was just a troll game or joke game, which it still might be. Like, looking at this video, it still looks like it might be a troll game. But let's move forward. Wanna wrap this up. Next we have Psychedelia of the Black Butterfly, which is only 57% positive, and it's a visual novel. So, knowing that, and knowing that, at least as of this moment, and unless Steam decides to do a purge of visual novels, which they may very well do, it's not out of the realm of possibility. At least at this moment, there's a lot of visual novels on Steam, and the idea of covering one that's not positively received is ridiculous. So, yeah, we're extremely sorry for the issues we have right now. Development team is gathering error reports and now reviewing them. We have to ask for your patience, and we'll make an announcement once fixed. So apparently the game is just crashing like crazy. This also is a not English full audio, so I would have to read everything out. It's not a visual novel that I believe is part of any series or anything too important because of that. The animation style looks fine, but that's kind of all I can say about it. So yeah, this one's leaving the fall list. We've got plenty of visual novels. Maybe the wish list is a little short on visual novels that don't also include adult content, but honestly, I don't think kids would want to play visual novels because there's so much reading to them anyways. So I don't think there's a lot of demand out there for that. Excuse me, I'm gonna drink some water. Wearing out my voice talking so much. Next we have a game I've already bought, so I don't need to consider it anymore. Cube 2, so I'll just remove that from the following list. It's in my library. This is why I needed to do the follow-up cleanup before I did the shopping for the Steam Winter Sale. The Steam Winter Sale is still going on, but I tend to want to have everything purchased kind of early in the Steam sales. Now there are some rumors that flash sales might come back in 2019 to Steam. If they do, then buying and spending a lot of money early is probably a mistake. It's probably a mistake anyways, because it's not like the discounts get lower. Sometimes the discounts in flash sales might get a game higher, but I think part of the, even when flash sales were happening, it was games that weren't discounted at all of a sudden got very discounted during a sale, not games were 30% off and then all of a sudden they're 60% off, because that would irritate too many people. Yeah, there's nothing really that needs to be said about Cube 2. I plan on playing Cube 1, I plan on playing Cube 2. I own the games, they're on the list. The extremely 1,000+ game long list of games I own, many of which I've already covered, many of which I'd never cover, but I certainly humble brag a little bit here. I have the library to choose from if I want to choose a game to play, and am not limited to saying, oh, I need to go play a free to play game because I have no money and don't have anything new to play. Let's see. Next we have a game called Quantum Replica, which tells me we're close to the end. This one is only got 16 reviews, but it's from like May, so I don't think it's going to get any more. Fast-paced stealth action game. Now, what this looks like to me is a top-down twin-stick shooter game with bullet hell elements. And those are two styles of games that I generally don't want to play. So I'm trying to think, can I find a reason to make an exception to make this to the wish list? Because my knee-jerk thought is no. That I should just say, should remove it. But I'm thinking maybe I should broaden my horizons and try a game like this. I don't know why Quantum Replica would be the one I would want to try. It's discounted pretty nicely right now at $3.99. Let's look at the reviews and see if we can get a general idea of how long it would be. 5.6 hours, 1.4 hours, 8 hours, 1.6 hours. 3.7 hours. Played through 53% of the game. The game always keeps crashing for me. 7 hours. I guess I'm gonna be a little generous on this. I'm gonna add it to the wish list. I still know that I probably wouldn't decide to buy this. Apparently the breaking floors are something nobody likes. One thing I could say I like here is that you're not doing fights against a lot of enemies. Instead, it's more of a stealth, get behind one enemy and kill them style of game. I'll add this to the wish list. I'm going to be a little generous there. Move forward. Speaking of game styles I don't play, side-scroller shoot-em-ups is definitely one of them. That being said, this R-type game is well known and thus very relevant, so if there is any side-scrolling shoot-up game I should ever play, it should be this, and this is that's what justifies it being on the wish list. That and the fact that it's received very positively. Moving on. Next we have a beat 'em up called Raging Justice, which is 66% positive. I would like to see a beat 'em up game like this that is well received. Unfortunately, this one is not it. This art style in particular is kind of appealing and interesting looking. Let's see what the reviews say. Doesn't feel right to me. I don't know if it would come to me if I played a bit more. Nah, isn't it? Stiff music, stiff algorithm, gameplay isn't refined. Nice effort, though it is definitely there. Bright side, I found out about Mother Russia Bleeds and River City Ransom Underground, so I can't get mad. So, yeah, instead of this game, I should buy or play Mother Russia Bleeds, which has a different animation, or River City Ransom Underground, which has a different animation style. It's a shame. Like, I really would like to see what looks like video on top of still images animation style that used to be kind of popular in arcades. But yeah, this has got to go. Yeah, it's been since May. If they made major improvements, that they would have fixed it and said something. Moving on. I noticed that Team 17 there, the developer of that game, was celebrating the idea of releasing 100 games. That's not inherently a good thing, particularly if a lot of the games you're releasing are not the most polished, the greatest games you could make. Like, there's plenty of asset flippers and very low effort developers that flood Steam with games all the time, and getting 100 on Steam or published somewhere is not a hard thing to do. So we're looking at this game Returner 77, which is 69% positive. It looks like it might be a slightly interesting puzzle game. Like, from the visuals, this looks like something I'd want to play. So then the question is, why do people not like it? It's $1.99 right now. That seems like a very good discount. So is it buggy? Does it only have like... it says it has 80 plus puzzles. That's not... You probably should have thrown in another 20, so you could say 100, or another 21, so you could say over 100. Let's see. It's broken up currently into several chapters that recounts the waking, and mission of 77. Great graphics, but obtuse puzzles and storyline. People who love puzzles will likely give it a good review, but puzzles just for the sake of puzzles don't cut it. I just covered a game called The Room 2, and that basically was puzzles for the sake of puzzles. I'm okay with that idea, though. Let's see, what am I doing? What am I doing? What is the point? The answer is just do it, because it will activate another obtuse puzzle for you to solve. Interesting. That doesn't seem like... Puzzles are either too simplistic or not actual puzzles. Many of the puzzles, I click a few times without even figuring out the goal and solve them. Then there are puzzles that are not puzzles. You have two sets of spinning lights and some knobs that tweak one of the set's path. You just have to adjust it until it aligns with the other. There's no logic, just infinite tweaking. Yeah, that's a problem with puzzle games, though, is often that the quality of each individual puzzle can wildly vary. This game is incomplete at the time I wrote this, November 20th, so check the date. Game Store page oddly manages to omit this information, which in my opinion is vital information affecting the consumer's decision to purchase. Let's see. Puzzles, puzzles, more puzzles. A very short vlog or two. Straightforward. So this review indicates that they think the game is incomplete because it doesn't have a story. It seems like the developer is saying there will never be any more story. There are way better puzzle games than this one, e.g. The Room. Well, if The Room is better than this game, I'm going to remove it. Please take note that Return 77 is a mobile game ported on PC. So I just covered the sequel to The Room 2. I wasn't super happy. I don't see a reason why I would want to submit myself to playing another mobile port that is just puzzles. I would much prefer to play something like The Witness a second time, or The Talos Principle a second time, than have to go through something that's worse than The Room. Because I don't, honestly, the funny thing is, The Room probably is the best, one of the best series for mobile games out there, but it's still not very good quality compared to PC games. Mobile games just have never been quality, unfortunately. Next we have Ride 3. It's 75% positive. It's a racing game on motorcycles. I'm not sure how many racing games I would want to play, but this should be up for contention, so it goes to the wish list. Easy peasy. Next we have Rogues Like Us, if any of the images decide to load. A hack and slash roguelike unlike any other. I still would prefer to play roguelites versus roguelikes, because roguelikes, if they are true to that term, which often they aren't, reset everything once you die. You don't get any XP, any gold, or anything that unlocks. Whereas a roguelite does let you keep some XP or some gold, something unlocks. This doesn't look bad, though, so I see no reason to not put it on the follow list now that it has 20 reviews. Came out in May. This is a game, though, that also would just suffer from some relevancy issues, and if I hadn't already played Rogue Legacy already, I would certainly suggest playing that first. Yeah, I'm just not sure. All-time peak of 5 people. 1 person played it today. Yeah, that's not really a lot of people playing this game or knowing that it exists. So me covering it either has me coming from the perspective, oh, check out this hidden gem, or me coming from this perspective of, look at this game that could have succeeded but failed to because it didn't have enough advertising. Let's move on. Next we have RPG Golf. It is 72% of 22 user reviews, so that's kind of all I needed to see. The idea of a golf game that is also RPG game is an intriguing idea. The idea of a golf game on Steam, there's a lot of putt-putt games on Steam, but not a lot of like driving range or long golf games. But you can see it's not just golfing, it's also getting to dungeons and hitting monsters with your clubs. So this one looks crazy, and I love crazy games, so that goes to the wish list. Not discounted on sale right now, but it's been as low as 99 cents, and I think 99 cents would be a great price for a game like this. Moving on, we have Runefall, which is a match 3 game. Not sure how many match 3 games I really need to cover, if any of them, but this one doesn't look bad. It actually looks incredibly big for a match 3 game. It's actually oddly too big. 91% of its 23 user reviews. Discounted to $2.99. It may still be a little bit expensive, but that's for a decision for a later day. Right now, I think Runefall deserves to be on this. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a Runefall 2. Still, however, if you want to play an adult match 3 game, Honey Pop is available right now for $2.49. Cover that, or 10 Million's a pretty decent match 3 game that has a little bit of a different experience to it. You Must Build a Boat is the sequel to 10,000. So we're kind of seeing all of the somewhat recognizable match 3 games. Let's see. Runefall is a tad different from most match 3 games in that you explore the map, which spans multiple screens with your matches. Every match slowly scooches the screen over in a direction which you made the match, and you use this movement to clear the map and find tiles, chests, rooms. Interesting sub-game to just a simplistic match 3 element. And that's really what you want to do, is you want to have some kind of strategy or sub-game behind the idea of doing something that's extremely simplistic or repetitive. Usually in video games, the simplistic repetitive action is you're jumping on a platform, you're walking, you're running, you're shooting at things. But then behind jumping, you might be collecting points or collecting coins behind shooting things, you might be getting experience that lets you level up and gain more skills. Moving forward to the next game, we have Sabbath of the Witch, which is another visual novel, nudity, sexual content anime game that's rated very positively. And so, for fear of it showing something that will get me in trouble with YouTube, we'll scroll down. This is another one with the patches, so that's helpful. I'll put that on the wish list. Let's see, is there anything else that really needs to be said here? Nope, not really. Just another adult visual novel game that, if I can ever get around to playing them and criticizing them in some way, I will do. And is this page gonna load? Let's reload this page and see what happens. There we go. Next we have Scamp Hi-Hat Havoc, which is a free-to-play action puzzle platformer. This was probably on the fall list because it was free. I don't know why I would have put things on the fall list because they were free, but people seem to like it now. Let's see. The question I would want to ask is, why is this game free? Seems like you need a controller. Well, it's a free game. I'd probably never cover a free game anyways. It's rated 76% positive. I don't need to go into too much of a deep dive to figure out what's wrong with this game. It seems like it might be laggy on the keyboard and mouse controls. And yeah, it probably is pretty short too, if I was to guess. Because you wouldn't give away a game for free like this unless there was a reason. So let's just move on. Speaking of games that probably deserve to be free at this point, we have Secret of Mana. This is an example of a game. It's not positively reviewed. It's 53% positive in the last 30 days. It's 63% positive over its lifetime since February. It's just not what people who remember the original Secret of Mana wanted, and they weren't happy with the port, and the port was buggy, and the remaster was kind of unnecessary. If I recall correctly, there was a couple of games like this that came out, I think both from Square Enix, and Square Enix is just, their management is not smart, in my opinion, as how they handle their business and how they make decisions, like big decisions. That being said, there's been a lot of patches that try and fix these games, I think, but still not enough. They were working on it as late as of October 9th. Unfortunately, Secret of Mana just is so well known and so popular that it has such a high relevancy. Even being mixed reviewed, I still need to put it on the wish list. But I will certainly keep in the back of my mind to remember to not buy it, even if it was discounted down to $20, which is still incredibly expensive. Like, this is the historical low price of $19.99. This game should be $5 when, really, at a discount. You could have come out maybe $15. And I'm, from the looks of it and from what I think I recall, this game was really just a PC port, or a port of mobile graphics to PC, which irritated people too. So let's move on. Next we have Seed of the Dead, which is rated very positively, another sexual content nudity game. Although this time it's an action shooter game. Also, I don't believe this is... I guess it is a Japanese game. So... yeah, when we run into all these adult games like this, there's not a lot to say. It's like, if it's rated positively, if people who know what it is and bought it and are happy with what they got, then I'll add it to the wish list. I want to support the adult industry, the adult video game industry. I don't want video games to be this totally totalitarian, censored, there is no free speech allowed in video games type environment. I think video games are art, and I think all artists are free to express themselves in any way they seek. So I don't want to see that part disappear, as it's also obvious that there's a big fan base for these types of games. These games sell, and it's not that they just sell because there's sucker born every minute and you're getting a bunch of like 16-year-olds to lie about their age to buy it. No, there's clearly of age adults who want this kind of material, and thus it should be available. I don't get into too big of a rant there. How do I cover that kind of material? I don't know. Maybe people just gift me those games and then I play them off screen completely, and then I come back and I give a short 30-minute review just talking. Maybe I can cut down the footage to a more short review. Maybe I have to find a different site that lets me stream that kind of content. That is also a consideration. But until I can make those decisions, I'm not going to blanketly ignore and pretend like these games don't exist and that they're so bad they don't deserve criticism or coverage. Moving on, we have Seek Ito Live, Eddie Live. This is a kind of minimalistic dungeon crawler game that looked very interesting when it first came out, and I really just wanted to see how people felt about it, and they seem to be 81% positive. So this can be added to the wish list. Seems like the vast majority of games are getting added to the wish list, and that's no coincidence, certainly. For games to have made it to the fall list, I would have had to make a certain level of quality checks in the first place, and so really now this is just the double check, and then there will be a third check when I actually have to put my money where my mouth is and actually buy the games. So many layers to help limit what I purchase. Next we have one called Cinco no Ronde 2, which says it's a shooting, fighting, mecha anime game, and it's rated 72% positive. I'm trying to see what of this game caught my eye, besides the usual anime aesthetics, which always catches my eye. It's always bright and colorful. It's a mech fighting game. There's a lot going on the screen. It seems like you're doing a lot of transforming into different modes. See, it might be asking a lot here to try and play this. There's characters on the sides. Yeah, it feels like it's basically a fighting game, but the fighting characters are mecha robots that can do bullet hell shooting style attacks. $15.99 seems I want to see some gameplay. And unfortunately, a lot of these trailers are not going to show a lot of gameplay. Instead, they're going to focus on the characters, which in this kind of game may not matter so much. Yeah, unfortunately, I think this game is just too much of a bullet hell shooter. It's just too much on the screen for my eyes. It's too random. If I was gonna play a bullet hell shooter, I'd play Ikaruga, but yeah, I just don't think this is the kind of game for me. So yeah, not every anime game makes it to the wish list. But if that looks like a game that's for you, it is rated positively. It's just, this is one of those personal limitations and opinions. Some game styles are just not what I want. Next we have Shadowlings, which is a dungeon crawler. Let's see. Let me check to see how long we've been going. Yeah, we've been going a couple hours, and see, my fear here is if we are at S, we're going to hit T, and if it's anything like the wish list, a significant amount of games start with the letter T, because it's like the game, the best game, the Shadowlings, the Adventure of Link. There's an actual game that starts with the letter T. So let's look at this game and make this decision, and then we're gonna end this stream and go to a part 3, which will happen not tomorrow because I'll be streaming Hearthstone, but Saturday, 2 days from now, and hopefully we can wrap it up at that point. Otherwise, these just get way too long, these videos. Although, to be fair, this is still way shorter than the Steam wishlist videos. Shadowlings, I'm not really seeing anything that amazes me about this. Looks just like it's you're playing as assassin ninja cats or something, but like, still looks like it's a top-down twin-stick shooter basically, in a dungeon crawler experience. It's pretty much all combat because it's right click to block, left click to attack over and over again. It's not very interesting. Yeah, I would not want to play a game where I have to play with the mouse. Alright, so that's not making it to the fall list, which will leave us with Shadowverse, collectible card game, as the game that we will end this recording on, and we will start the next recording on. That's going to be it for this video. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that helps me with YouTube, tells them that my videos are worth watching. If you want a friend or follow me on a myriad of social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. When you subscribe, please click the notification bell also. And if you want to support me, the whole reason why we're doing the follow list cleanup is so that you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off the wish list, and know that I've spent a lot of effort to make sure the games on my wish list are games I actually do have interest in covering. And if I am gifted a game, I am going to cover it as fast as possible. The other way you can support me is by supporting me on a monthly basis through Patreon, which will be very helpful to build up income to hire employees, make the channel better, and in general just turn this into a full functioning, self-sustaining business. that's it for this recording. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.